Hello, hello, guitar people of the world. It's Jeff from jeffrey-thomas.com, and I'm going to walk through my guitar tab version of Folsom Prison Blues by the Man in Black, Johnny Cash. So make sure you're requesting that off the website, and we can get some work done. I am capoed at fret 1 dun, 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 for this tune, and there's a reason for that in a minute. But let's jump into the intro and get you started on the tune. Okay, and then we're into the F chord, which is much easier with the capo. And here we go with the strumming pattern. Get used to that because you're going to be doing it a lot. Now, the way I wrote this is to kind of keep things on the easy side. Rhythmically on that strumming pattern, I wrote it as 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and so on a lot of the Cash tunes and this kind of like old school country strumming, it's very fundamental guitar playing, which I love about it. On the F chord, our bass pattern is going to be from the 6th string to the 5th string. So you got to be accurate there, right? Especially when it's... You're going to miss, but that's part of learning. Eventually your right hand gets really accurate at going from the 6th string to the 5th string only, and then the strums in between. I wrote this in 8th. I actually think it's more of a 2 feel using 16th notes, but I don't want to confuse the world with that mumbo jumbo. So let's keep it as it is, and maybe back up a little bit and go to those first 3 measures where you're playing single notes. So from the very top I wrote 1, quarter rest on beat 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now the cool part. So your second finger is going to go to the 3rd fret on the 6th string, and you're going to instantly do a grace note bend to 4, and then drop it back. So make it painful. Okay, cool. Now, does it actually get to 4? No, it actually falls short of that. So the distance of bend from 3 to 4 is a half step, but I'm feeling like he's doing like a quarter. Just sort of crossing the fret bar over into that 4 area. And then you don't repick it, you just drop it with the left hand to get the right sound on that. One thing about my tablature is when I capo, I don't care if we're capoed at the 1st fret or the 5th fret or the 3rd, wherever. That number 1 is the capo number. This is still fret 3, this is still fret 2, this is still fret 5. I don't make an adjustment for the capo to say, oh, now all of these notes are open notes. No, that confuses the world, and it's like the biggest level of stupidity in guitar notation. So if you're capoed at 1, those are all 1s, right? If this is still 2, this is still 3, this is still 4, let's keep it simple. Get used to that F strumming pattern, right? Because you're going to do it for 2 measures before he hits the verse, and then when you do hit the verse, you're going to see on my scribble that I have put that the verse is going to go 7 times. And then we move on into the tune, and there's, repeats for all of this rhythm playing. So let's jump in from the verse. We don't have to go through all 7 times, but I'll get you the idea of what's going on. So we're on the verse. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. Now when you hit after 7 times, you're going to have a walk up into the B flat, and that walk up is... So 1, 1, 3, 5. So that's literally 3rd fret and the 5th fret with your 1st and your 3rd finger. Now you're into B flat, and I do the B flat just like so. You don't want to get the 1st string. You're going to touch it with that bar, but you're not going to be playing it, So when you do your strum, if I pick through these notes for you, that guy ain't working. We don't want him to work. Because if you do press it down all the way, you're going to get this goofy, right? You're going to get a G in there. And it'll sound like you're playing Maroon 5. We don't want that. So anyway, going back to bass patterns, when you're on this chord shape, which is, if you took away the capo, this would be an A shape. You know, one of the important things about guitar playing, getting understanding of structures, chord shapes, usually everything is related to your first position shapes. Like this F chord would be an E shape. This B flat chord that we're using would be an A shape, etc. You want to relate them back to a first position chord because it's going to help you to understand the shape. Now, when we get to that B flat chord, our bass pattern changes. We go from 5th to 6th. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, you're going to run that B flat 3 times. Then you're going to bounce down to the first measure of the 3rd line, and we have a little bit of a variation on the bass. We go. Okay, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and then you're back to the F. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3. Okay, 4 times on that. Then we get to C7, which I include my pinky on this. Because if you don't, you're gonna get an F in there. So I just go ahead and form it full C7, and then the first pattern of the bass notes that he does, he varies the bass pattern on this C7. So 5th string, 4th string. Okay, that's one of the patterns that he plays for the C7, but then he also does this. If you scoot down to the 2nd measure of the 4th line, you're going to notice that it goes. That 2nd finger is going to move from the 5th to the 6th. Another cool option for a C7 chord. Right? Then we're back to an F chord. You have that same walk up into the B flat. And then most of this page is just rhythm. It's kind of one of the bummers about the cash tunes, especially Walk the Line, for crying out loud. It just goes on and on. It's a brilliant tune, don't get me wrong. Not knocking Johnny. But to play this stuff, you are accompanying vocal. That is your job. These guitar players and people who played for Johnny, you know, they just held on to the chord until he came in and sang, and they knew when they were supposed to change, especially on Walk the Line. You know, if you go to Walk the Line, we're in F as well. So he like hums. I keep a close watch on. Yeah. So I imagine that they were probably trained, the backing musicians, the guitar player and such were trained, like when he cued it, you followed him. So I noticed on Walk the Line, not to talk about Walk the Line too much, but there are erratic amounts of time that it holds the chord. So when you're paying attention, it's not just 8 times. Like they'll do it 9 times. Random repeats, which is very interesting as far as playing. But anyway, there's, you know, I have everything on this tune, the solo and all of it's on page 2. So go ahead and request the tab and you'll have all the goodies. But one last thing to talk about on this tune, because I don't want anyone going, it's actually played blah, blah, blah. It's actually played like this, believe it or not. What he did, the guitar player, is he tuned all of his strings up a half step. So his E was an F. His A was up to a B flat, A sharp or a B flat. Best to call it a B flat. His D would be half step up to an E flat. So on. He went through each string and he tuned each string up a half step. All right? So then what that allowed him to do was play an E shape, play an A shape, play a B7 shape, and get the sound of an F chord, a B flat chord, and a C7 chord without having to capo. I think that's super cool, and that is definitely a Snapple fact for this tune. Now, why did I decide to capo it at 1? Because I'm not going to take a beginning or intermediate guitar student and say, all right, we're going to do Folsom Prison Blues with some brews and tune every one of your strings up a half step, which is like a deal breaker. I mean, you could play it here. You could play it open, but let's be clear. Let's talk musical fact. If you're tuned standard tuning, you are going to be an E. The notes that you are playing are going to be, this is going to be an E chord, this is going to be an A chord, this is going to be a B7. This will not match up with the recording, which is, don't get me started on the YouTube idiots who are putting stuff out there and they are not talking about the original key. Like, you run into that, you sniff one of these guys out, make a comment on their channel. Original key is, right? Because all that is doing is confusing people. For example, somebody says, oh, I'm going to show you how to play Folsom Prison Blues. You just need to play these chords, right? With your guitar tuned at standard pitch. You are not going to match up to the original recording. And anyone who's paying attention is going to say, hey, I tried to play that against the original recording and it sounded like wrong. Just to be nice, it sounded wrong because you're a half step off. So let's talk about musical fact. Let's not talk about musical opinion. And like I said, I have the whole tune done, and hopefully that was a good walkthrough for you to get you started. One last thing that I noticed a lot of my students are running into on this tune is they're keeping their wrist too stiff in the strumming hand. Okay, strumming hand has to be loose. You cannot go and plow through this. So for example, go slow, watch your right hand, not your left. Your left isn't going to be doing anything. So get the bass note, light, and change the direction on that down and the up. Don't go like plowing through. So there's a little bit of a finesse on the down, and then you just reverse the direction for the up. So I'm just throwing my right hand at the guitar like a wet rag. This is one of the number one things I hear my students doing. They're just charging through it and it sounds just too harsh, right? So keep an eye on that when you go to practice it, and hopefully that was a good walkthrough for you on this tune, and I will catch up with you soon with another cool lesson. All right.